Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of VP's Guest List. I'm your host, VP, and the guest stopping by for a conversation today is a recent graduate from a Biosystems Engineering Master's Program. She's a perennial traveler, and she's the host of her Lamb States List YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Enyonam. Hey, Enyo, how you doing today?
VP, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for stopping by. And before I go forward, really want to congratulate you on your recent graduation. It's a very tremendous feat, and I hope you're proud of yourself. And can you comment on that? Did you talk about do you feel accomplished? All that.
I feel accomplished, grad school is not easy. So coming to grad school, doing research, taking coursework and finishing is it's a nice feeling. I'm proud
Yeah.
of myself. And I know my parents are proud of me too.
No, yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, we're all proud of you, and I hope you are able to feel that love and pride from all your family and friends. Want to
Thank you.
first of all talk about your background. We have sort of similar background to the fact that we all came from Ghana. Want to talk about your time there. Give us a sense of growing up in Ghana, how it was like for you. Lessons you've learned. How you're able to navigate living in Ghana and growing up, and the values that you got from that experience.
Yeah. Before I answer the question, I just want to say thank you for inviting me and thank you for doing this. I think that the conversations that you have on your channel are really, really important to this day and age, especially for young people. So thank you. And to answer your question, yeah, I grew up in Ghana most of my life, specifically in Accra. Although I did travel to different regions, most of my life was in Ghana. And I think that growing up in Ghana, I like the sense of community that we had. Your neighbors are concerned with what you are doing, how you are growing up. So I think that that has shaped me and also my parents. Obviously, as a child, my dad taught us the 3H. And if my siblings are here right now, they'll be screaming it alongside with me: honesty, integrity, honesty, hard work, and then humility. So those are core values that I've taken with me and that has shaped my life. So wherever I find myself, I try to be honest as much as possible. Sometimes I lie, but when you are lying, you feel itchy because you didn't grow up lying. And then humility as much as possible, to be humble, to be teachable, and then hard work, do everything with excellence and diligence. So I believe that those are values that have shaped my life.
No, yeah, those are great values. I'm definitely gonna remember that. I feel like for every episode I get, a little bit of nuggets here and there, that I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna, keep with for the rest of my life. But no, those are very good values. Similar to me, grew up in an African household as well, and family definitely try to drill, into your head some really core values. I think which are very important. You don't
Yeah.
realize it when you're young, because I was a stubborn kid, so I caused a lot of trouble. I got beat up a lot, but I think it's all good. It definitely made me a better person today. So
Right.
I don't regret those experiences necessarily. But that's great. So obviously you grew up in Ghana. Can you talk about like the educational system in Ghana? Um, what you did back then, and sort of I'm gonna tie that into obviously how you ended up in the U.S. Studying for your master's program.
Okay, so educational landscape in Ghana, I think is very rigorous. We have the primary school, junior high school, senior high school before you go on to college, like university. Um, I think it's okay. It's not so bad. Senior high school was really the most difficult part for me because you're away from home in sort of like a boarding school. So no family, no friends that you have to make new friends there. But I think that senior high school also shaped my life. I went to a Catholic school, so discipline on point. But I'd say the educational landscape, it's very rigorous, not very practical like we would want it to be, but in terms of theoretical knowledge, that is fine. So that's why I'm here, obviously. I wanted an environment where I can, learn more practical because I'm in the science and technology background, right? And you need a lot of practical to be able to understand more what you are doing if you want to solve problems. And so coming to America was mainly because of the world-class facilities, knowledgeable professors, and then the practical, more on the practical for me. Yeah.
Right.
So Ghana shaped my life, but I think that America helped me to understand more what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And your point about the boarding school, I remember because I was 13 when I went to boarding school, right? So imagine
Then,
being 13, having to fend for yourself, be independent. It was definitely a struggle.
mhm,
But to your point about, being practical, I think I agree with that. I also think, in the one of the differences, at least for me, cultural differences was in Ghana, you don't really get an what's it called, forward notice before you do like tests sometimes or like quizzes, whereas
mhm,
like in the US you have that scheduled until you're able to plan towards it. I think that was very helpful
yeah,
here in the US. And to your point about the practicality too, like here you have grants, you have world class, research labs, etc., where you're able to actually um offer or actually see like theory play out into like practicality, right? As opposed to just
right.
like reading about it all the time. So I
Mhm,
agree with that. And I guess, talking about your journey, right, to the US in the master program, for people who are listening, who are in Ghana or elsewhere in the world, who are thinking about how that process is going to look like, right? How do you apply? What is the visa process like? Is it what are my odds, right? Is it like 1% chance I get in? Stuff like,
uh,
can you give us some insight into how that process went for you and what you felt like was helpful?
I think first it's important to know what you want to do. So the program you want to study, and then what country you want to study in. So if you want to study in the US, then you begin to look at schools in the US that offer the program that you are interested in, right? And how your background also ties into the program. And I'd say that after doing that, one of the things that helped me, especially if you want to get funding, is to reach out to professors before you even apply to the schools. So you do your research on the professors in the field you are interested in, and not just shallow research, right? You dig in deep, you go like into the current projects they are working on, current grants they've received, and then you tailor your CV, your personal statements, which are like very important documents that you use in applying to that specific research that the professor is doing. So I think that that was the main thing that helped me. So you have like your cold email, and don't send cold emails to a lot of schools. Like don't send the same thing to so many schools, right? Tailor
Right.
it specifically to that research, and then your CV, your personal statements. Those are very important. In the beginning, have your documents, all your documents ready. Transcripts is one important thing to have. Your CV, again, personal statement. Um, yeah, I think those are the main ones. And then you reach out to the professors early on, like way before the deadline for admission. Also
Hmm.
keep the deadline in mind. So when you get a reply from the professor, you make sure that you send in your applications very early, because sometimes the universities make early admission decisions. So don't wait. So for example, if the deadline is 15th January, don't wait until 1st January to apply. As much as possible, November, December, make sure your application is out there. That helps. So like they keep your name and then your documents in their mind prior to making the decision. So I think those are helpful tips that you can use when applying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very great advice. You actually said something very interesting about doing like very detailed research. I think a lot of people tend to just like brush over research and, but I think a lot of people, in my experience, love talking about themselves and love seeing that like people have taken the time to actually, learn about them. And
Right.
so that's very good advice. And I hope, listeners definitely are able to note that down and try to emulate what you did there. In terms of, you know, moving to the US, right? What was it like a culture shock to you, right? How was it like adjusting? Because I can give you my story, right? So the first time I got here, my dad he's a professor, and so he had one of his TAs take me to McDonald's, right? And
Mhm.
and I had no idea how to order at McDonald's. I just said, "Hey, just give me a biscuit." I didn't even know what a biscuit was, and like I didn't even know how much it cost. Like I didn't know anything, and it's like that was my first experience with America for a true experience where it's like the way we move in Ghana is completely different from here, so you really have to
Mhm.
adjust. So can you give us like what was your like welcome to America moment or something like that?
For me, I would say I didn't really have much of a challenge in the very beginning because of the Ghanaian and Nigerian students here. So a Ghanaian picked me up from the airport and took me to KFC, Kentucky.
Okay, okay,
So um, it was basically he doing everything, like he talking. But I mean, I was learning from there how to like communicate with the Americans, how to order. So that was like not really challenging for me. But I'd say that when the semester started, that is when I felt the difference between Ghana and America, you know, first week of classes and then boom. It's like so much to do, so much assignments, so much um things to read after class. And I'm like, bro, I just want to relax for a while, you know? But like
yeah,
first week and then so many things to study. So that was one cultural shock for me. Um, I think that the other thing was how they relate with their professors, like very cordially. You know, you can just walk to your professor and talk like it's not a big deal. But back in
yeah.
Ghana, you know, we are very big on titles. We are big on, you know, please and thank you. Like I realized that here when you say please and thank you, it's like you're begging for
Oh
something. It's
yeah,
like,
oh yeah,
yeah, like they just talk without saying please. But like from Ghana, we say please every time we want to say something, we say thank you. So it was like it looked like I wasn't confident, and that was a problem for me. So I had to, you know, adjust to the system. Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, that's an interesting one, especially the please and thank yous. Ghanaians are notoriously, known for always saying please after every sentence.
Mhm.
And and to your point about like the in Ghana we respect like titles, right? Like in Ghana, for example, right? Like if you're seeing your professor walk across the lawn, and they're holding their bag, like instinct tells you, oh, you're supposed to go and help them carry their bag or whatever. It's like
Mm.
here you're not doing any of that, right? And
Yeah.
you can even joke with your professor, you can make fun of them, whereas like in Ghana you do that and you might someone might get pissed and you're maybe
Yeah.
expelled or something like that. So it's a very interesting dynamic. So but good thing you didn't have to deal with drive-throughs and people
Right.
rushing you.
Right.
um
Yes.
uh, and also just go into your program itself, right? What made you decide on, the biosystems engineering program that you actually ultimately attended? Was it, you said you did a lot of research on professors, you did cold emails, etc. Ultimately when you applied to the variety of schools that you did, what made you say this is the place for me and this is where I want to be?
Okay. So first off, my background in chemical engineering, I did chemical engineering at KNUST in my undergrad. So I wanted a program that is closely aligned to what I studied. So it was between chemical engineering or energy systems or biosystems. So something systems or chemical, right? I applied to quite a number of schools. My dream school, unfortunately, did not give me funding. So I started cold emailing professors, right? And one of the reasons why I chose Kentucky outside the program, which was very interesting and related to what I wanted to do, was the fact that the professors here were very welcoming and like replied to my emails more frequently than the others. I remember when I reached out to my advisor, he was very forthcoming, like replied on time. So it's like, okay, I want to be here and you also want me. And that was a good feeling. And I remember reaching out to the director of graduate studies at DGS, and he was also very, very responsive. So I felt like, okay, this is where I would rather be among the other schools that gave me funding as well. And then, secondly, I realized that the international students here that I reached out to were also very friendly, and they also had good things to say about my professor, my department, and the university. So I said that okay, if people from where I'm coming from have experienced something like this and they have good things to say, then I'd rather come to this university. So that's what
Okay.
made me choose UK. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
UK as the
that's
University of Kentucky. Sorry.
yeah, no. It's all good. But no, that's a good reason. I feel like it feels good to be wanted. And
Yeah.
so that's definitely a good reason to pick at school. But you talk about international students. So were you able to, network with them ahead of time? I guess what were those conversations like? Were they I'm sure, they're obviously receptive to talking to you, etc. But, I guess what things did you want to know about the school, right? Beyond like the professor relationship? Did you want to know, like, if the city is like quiet or if the city is busy, notorious for crime? I don't know. What were the things that you wanted to know about living in, that university to, that made you say, okay, like I can actually see myself here.
Yeah, I think one of the questions, okay, I'll give a few.
Hmm.
So are there resources for international students? So that's something you'd want to know. Is there an international students office that is helping international students in terms of mental health, in terms of adjusting, and then the orientation, right? Like from the orientation, you also know that, okay, yeah, this is a place that wants you to grow. So those are things that you want to focus on. In terms of the city, during orientation, they told us more about Lexington. It's a pretty small city, but you also have access to different states. And I'm big on traveling. So if I have access to Ohio, if I have access to Illinois, why not?
Yeah.
Sign me up. So yeah, those are things that I was interested in knowing. And I also wanted a quiet place, like because I tend to be very quiet. So I wanted a place that will help me to be more quiet. I don't know if that's good, but yeah, I didn't want a very big city for my academics. I wanted somewhere quiet. So knowing that Lexington is quiet also helped me to, choose the school for my master's program. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about your traveling escapades in a little bit. But I just want to touch on your research, right? Gonna be very high level here. But can you give us, like, in layman's terms, like what your research was about, what your capstone project was about, and how people can see that manifest in the real world, right? I think a lot of times when scientists are doing things, you know, a lot of people have a difficult time understanding like how they actually have impact into the world and how these things actually change how we, you know, or technology advances. Can you just talk about one what your research was about just briefly and then like talk about the applications in like real world?
Okay, so the broad goal of our research is to take municipal solid waste, so like the waste that we generate on a daily basis, and convert it into sustainable aviation fuel, which is SAF for our aircrafts. But for me, what I worked on was the foundation of the project, how to actually sort the waste materials and know which of them is very useful to, produce that fuel. So the reason why we are taking waste materials to produce SAP is because of the problem of waste generation and the waste ending up in the landfills, which are not good for the environment, not good for our health. And so we want to take something that looks invaluable and make a valuable resource out of it. And so my research focused on using hyperspectral imaging. And if you are new to the concept, hyperspectral imaging is just taking combining imaging with spectroscopy. So spectroscopy, like as in infrared. So Fourier transform infrared or near infrared, that's spectroscopy, and imaging as in like the camera system that we have in our phone. But hyperspectral imaging is a more advanced camera that combines both imaging and spectroscopy. And so you are able to scan a material and then you determine what kind of material it is based on the spectral signatures of that material. So every material reflects light differently, right? So based on the way it reflects light, you know if it's a paper or a plastic or something else, right? But the reason why we are not just using normal cameras to sort these materials is because we have different types of plastics that usually look the same to our eye. And the imaging on our phone basically just replicates our eye. So we are capturing in RGB, right? But these plastics are different. So we have PP, which is polypropylene. We have HDP, high density polyethylene, sorry. So these are different materials, right? And you want to classify them. You can't do it with a normal camera or with your eye. So you need an advanced system that combines spectroscopy. Again, remembering that every material reflects light differently. So if I use the camera, which number one is fast, it's not time consuming. Number two is non-destructive in that you don't destroy the material during the scanning process, unlike other methods of determining materials where you have to destroy the material. Like after you scan or you do a test, you have to discard the material, right? So it's like waste. But with this system, you don't have to destroy the material. So it's non-destructive, it's fast, and then it gives you the spectral information of the material. And that helps in terms of, you know, less manual labor. You don't need people at our material recovery facilities where the waste are sent to sort out the materials with their manual hands because again, it's harmful to them, right? So you just have it as a sensor in the material recovery facility. As the samples move through the conveyor belts, the camera just determines what material it is based on the spectral signatures and puts it aside. So you are able to tell purity, you are able to tell quality, and then what specific material it is based on the model you are training. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. No, yeah, that's very great research.
Mhm.
One thing I always tell my friends is like, at the very least, when you're picking a career, don't be part of like the problem with the world. Like, don't make the world worse off. And this is definitely one of those things that's like actually doing a lot of good. And so definitely commend you guys for that research. And I think it's very important because just as a background, I cover paper and packaging, and so I'm basically invested in packaging companies, and so they use PVC, polypropylene, like you mentioned, polyethylene, high density and low density,
Mhm.
etc. And so I can tell just by virtue of how much they sell each year, how much, like in terms of volume wise, how much waste is being produced. And so
Mhm.
already I can see how important your work is in terms of like being able to recycle that waste and make it into something more sustainable. And
Yeah.
to your point, you guys are already using one, a sustainable way to actually sort the waste, and then also actually recycling it, right, which is in of itself sustainable. And so definitely commend you guys on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully your research is going well and you guys are able to you know get far with that and be able to transport it to aviation fuel, like you mentioned. But I guess my question on that is like, why aviation fuel, right? Why is that the ultimate end goal with the project?
Because the aviation sector contributes a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere because we are using unsustainable fuel right now. Jet fuel is not sustainable, right? And it contributes a lot to CO2 emissions. And so we want something that is sustainable to cut down that CO2 emissions equivalent that goes into the atmosphere from the aviation sector. So that's why we are focusing on sustainable aviation fuel. Of course, you can take the waste into electricity, you can take the waste into biofuels, but also because of where we are, SAF is really one of the main focus of the US in terms of decarbonizing the industry. So yeah, that's why we are taking it and transporting it and converting it into SAF.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. And also to your point about carbon emissions, I know some people are, I'm not gonna say anything controversial, but I know some people are, you know, unbelievers of global warming and all that stuff. But it's like, I think ultimately, at least if we have a solution like this that can, try to curb, how much warmer or how warmer the earth is getting sequentially, I think that's a very good, project to be working on. And are you gonna try to? I know you graduated, but are you gonna try to still be involved with that project, or you sort of move into something else? Something more refreshing, something new.
Well, currently I'm still working on the project. It's a 3-year project, and I think we're in the second year. So I'm still working on the project for now. So I'll be here for a while. Yeah.
Okay. 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 And I guess just on that, talking about your program, etc. What advice would you give, whether students, professionals, um, you know, who are looking to pivot into more of engineering, um biosystems, sustainability, etc. Because I think the reason why I asked that question is I think a lot of people sometimes, for one reason or other, either looking at stuff like money, or just like, am I going to be passionate about this, or there's a variety of reasons that go into people's decision about what to choose. So can you give people like advice about, what thing maybe they should try to think about when making that decision, or, how do you feel like the role or the area which you're in, suits to benefit your desires, whether it's money wise or just like passion, or you're just really passionate about the work you do. Just provide some insight to that so it can help people who are trying to make that decision.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. first thing that comes to mind is going to borrow one of our pledges from Alpha Epsilon Anna Society, which is our professional Anna Society. It says to place service before profits. And so if you want to come into this space, you should be passionate about helping people. You want to put humans and society first before profits. If you're thinking profits, just profits, I wouldn't advise you to come into this field because initially in the early beginning, the early stages, I don't think you'd make so much money. But the sense of knowing that you are contributing to solving a problem, even if it's just a small dot um in solving that problem, that should be your driving force. Like, I want to solve a problem. I'm passionate about maybe sustainability or the energy space. That should drive you, not profits, obviously. Yeah.
No, yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I do think that that is true. Even when um careers that are well paying, like in the early stages, I think you guys will be fine long term. But I'm talking about like banking, for example. I think like you still do have to be passionate about it because like there are gonna be long hours, and in those very tough times where you're working nonstop or problems are hard to solve. If you're not passionate about it, you're gonna give up, right? Or you're just
Right.
gonna say, "Oh, I need something else." So I definitely think that's a good advice. Just broadly, speaking, you need to really want to do something and not just look at like the monetary aspect of things as well. So good advice there. But I wanted to move away and talk about your personal interests, right? You talk about traveling. You're a huge traveler.
Mhm.
You love to go
Yeah.
places. Talk to us about that. What do you love about traveling? Why is it your thing? And what places, are you looking to visit that you haven't been yet?
Well, I think the main reason why I like to travel is because I get to experience different cultures and to see different places. And I'm a Christian, so I also want to see God's creation and appreciate what God has done, like His creation, right? So that's why I'm big on traveling. I also want to try new food, although I'm a bit picky, but yeah, trying new food is also like just something interesting to do. But I think that the places that I've visited that I really liked in the US, I would say Chicago, because I got to visit like nature and like see some plants that while I was growing up, I got to see, right? And I don't
Hmm.
see them anymore. Like there's this Lincoln Conservatory or so, they had that plant. And so like Chicago is my favorite place. In terms of where I want to visit, uh, I'm not really sure yet. I think I want to visit everywhere if possible. If I have
Yeah.
money and I mean, I have people sponsoring me, I'll visit everywhere. Um, but yeah, I want to visit Europe because I've not been there. So I visited Russia, but I don't consider Russia a European country. So I want to visit one of the European countries someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. You went to Russia? What was this?
Oh, 2018, like in my first year undergrad, it was
Interesting.
for a project with Isaac. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think I know anyone who's been to Russia before, so that's interesting. That's
That was
how
fun.
did you
It was
how did
fun.
you see it? Yeah, like how was that experience for you?
It was fun, and mainly because it was a project with Isaac, we had like different people from different countries, like Italy, there was Chinese, Indians, people from Ghana as well. So it was really cool, really nice, and we're trying to solve deforestation problems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Interesting.
was
All right.
interesting.
And I guess besides traveling, what other like interests do you have? Like besides talk about like work life balance. Like what do you do to going back to your answers on picking a university? You talked about mental health, etc. Like what things do you do to make sure your mind is clear? You're in good standing. You're happy. Things like that.
I think I like sports. I'm a sports girl, so I like playing tennis, table
Okay.
tennis, not lawn tennis, but table tennis. I also like watching movies.
Hmm.
So after a long day's work, I just relax with movies, and also I connect with my friends. Most of my friends are in the US, so there's no zone problems. So we get to chat, we get to connect, and I also connect with some of the Ghanaians here at my university. So,
Hmm. And you mentioned you're a sports fan. You're a Liverpool fan, right? If I'm not mistaken.
mhm,
You guys just won
period.
the Premier League. Yeah, yeah. How
Yeah,
you feel about
yeah.
that? Are you excited?
Good. I'm excited. You never walk alone.
You never won.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Liverpool
We are
fans,
that
man.
good. We are good. At least we are better than United. So,
Well, yeah, but that's not saying much, right? United is not doing anything this year or for the
mm,
last few years.
yeah,
So, you know, they're
yeah.
they're I'm
I
I'm
had
a
to
Chelsea
throw a
fan,
shade
so
at someone. So,
oh
oh,
really?
okay.
Oh, you had to
Yeah.
throw shade at yeah, I know a lot of United fans. I actually have a lot of United. They're very insufferable, so I can imagine.
Mm,
Um, but I want to talk about your YouTube channel, right? Her lamp stays lit. Obviously you mentioned you're a Christian. I've seen, faith is a big part of who you are. One, can you talk about your faith? Why that's important to you, how that's shaped you as who you are today. And then, talk about the reason it's behind your YouTube channel.
yeah, I think that yeah, I'm a Christian, and God is a foundation for everything that I do. He's the one who gives me the ability to do anything. And so if I want to do anything, whether academics, professional, personal life, or anything, I believe that once I'm connected to God, I'll be able to do the things that He has placed on my heart to do, or the things that I want to do, right? So faith, because I'm connected to God. I want to be connected to God always. And the reason I started the YouTube channel, Her Lamp Stays Lit, is because I want to share the things I learned from the Bible. Um, so things like my recent video was on thriving in a foreign land, for example. So what are some wisdom that we can get from the Bible on how to thrive in a new place? Also sharing about what to do in a waiting season, lessons we can learn from women in the Bible, So it shapes what I do, and it shapes how I've grown. So I think that, yeah, that's the motivation behind the YouTube channel.
And can you give
Yes.
us some gems from the recent video? Like, you talked about what to do during the waiting season. Some of the women in the Bible. You don't have to go into the whole video, but just can you give us, I guess, the summary? And by the way, I also try to pin your link to your channel in the description so people can also check it out.
Thank you.
Just so it's available. But yeah, can you give us like it's little sneak peek into what to expect when we go to your channel.
Okay, so my recent video, which is biblical wisdom for thriving in a foreign land, I draw um, wisdom nuggets from the story of Joseph, the story of Daniel, the story of Esther, on how to thrive when you find yourself in an unfamiliar place. So Daniel, when he found himself in Babylon, he distinguished himself. And King Darius at the time said that there's an excellent spirit in him. And so when you find yourself in a foreign land, you have to be excellent, do things with excellence and diligence. Also, when we look at Joseph, when he found himself in Egypt after his brothers betrayed him, he stayed connected to God all through. And so it's important to stay connected to God. And whenever you are given the opportunity, make sure you're offering solutions. Don't be too problem focused. Sometimes, yes, we tend to focus on the problem, but it shouldn't be what you do all the time. As much as possible, offer solutions. When we look at Joseph's story, he offered solutions to Pharaoh, and that's what made him prime minister, right? And he also offered solutions because he had revelation. He had a dream, God was with him, and that's what helped him to offer solutions to Pharaoh on what to do in the 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So I think that it's important to offer solutions wherever you go. Stay connected to God. Don't neglect your relationship with the Lord, and also your relationship with other people.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And when you were talking about one, being excellent in a foreign land, and making sure you're not neglecting friends or your values, etc. I always argue. So, we have a mutual friend, Jeff, and I always, talk to him. I'm like, listen, like, I understand because I have a lot of friends who are also like atheists or people who don't, are Christians, etc. And one thing I always like tell them is like, you know, even if you don't believe in like a higher being or, higher power, you know, I think the Bible in of itself just like provides you with certain principles that like can help you become a better person or just help you think more positively as well, and also avoid certain things, right? Even like when you think about like the 10 commandments, etc., and things like this, like, about lying, etc., like I know a lot of people would be way better off if people didn't lie so often, right? Like just think about that, right? Like you don't even have to believe in like, oh, there's a heaven and hell or whatever the case is, but just thinking about just the principles that the Bible offers you. And even, to your point now about
Yeah.
excellence, right? You go to a new school, you go to somewhere you're not familiar, or a new job, like be excellent. Try to make sure that, instead of thinking about all the negative things, like you thinking about the positives and trying to offer value. I think those are very good advice that if people, even if you don't believe in, higher being, heaven, hell, etc., but you're able to just focus on like the information that you're being provided, I think it best serves you to be able to take all that in. And so that's my little nugget there. I think like people sometimes struggle too much because I think, people I've talked to, right, who are atheists just struggle with the idea that like there's someone telling me what to do, how to go about my life. And I think people want to have that independence sometimes about like, oh, like you can't tell me what to do. I'm, a man or whatever. And it's just like, all right, like I get it. So no problem. But like just look at the principles too and see if like if you were to apply these things, will your life be better off? Right. So but
Right.
anyway. But
And
I guess yeah, go ahead.
okay.
Sorry.
I was gonna say it's God that gave you life anyway, so
Right.
you might as well go to him for anything you need.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good saying. That's a good advice. And, I guess, in terms of your channel, what is your outlook for growth or what's your plan, right? Like where do you in, 10 years time, right? When we see her lamb stays lit, we see Enyonam, where would you love to be at?
Um, I just hope and pray that I'm still saying what God wants me to say and not like doing what I want to say. Because, there's that tendency to, look at human metrics and all of that and switch a bit. So hopefully in 10 years' time, I'm still um, teaching from the Bible and saying what God wants me to say. But personally, in terms of plan, we'll be doing Bible study on the channel. And we'll be
Mhm.
looking at women in the Bible and lessons we can learn from them, and also just wisdom from Proverbs, wisdom from King Solomon, just like incorporating them into our daily life. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
And you
I'm big on intentional living.
right. Okay. And what is intentional living for you? Like what does that mean to you?
Understanding that I have just one life,
Mhm.
and as much as possible, living in the will of God, and then planning my life in accordance with the word of God and what God says I should do. Yeah.
Got you.
So not just
Got you.
leaving things to chance. I don't like to leave things to chance. Like, okay, I'm just moving with the flow. Whatever happens, happens. I believe that we should plan, um, be intentional with planning. But of course, we are committing our plans to God, but we need to plan first, right? And have a vision and follow through with that vision. If God said I should do this, I make sure that I do it to completion. Understand that God is a completer. Whatever He starts, He finishes it. So if I'm a child of God and I'm called to live um, a Christ-like life, then I have to complete everything that I started as much
Right.
as possible. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's a good, that takes it back to it's actually on my Facebook still probably, but it was like this was like probably I don't even know, like maybe like 8 years ago or something. I said something like, before you quit something, pause and like remember the reason why you started or something like that.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
the
very good
why.
to the
Mhm.
why, exactly. The why of why you're doing what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. And if those things are still present, definitely try to complete it. And so I definitely like the God is a completer statement that you made there. But you talk about, planning, right? Not taking chance. I'm with you and sort of like I don't like to, I know there's some people out there who just, go with the flow or just like let life, do whatever. It's like, no, I can't live like that with that so much uncertainty or just like having no control of my life. I feel like I have to be able to have a goal and vision and try to have steps that I can see to achieve that. So, just talking about like your determination, habits, and mindset, what are some habits that you try to incorporate into your life? I'm sure, faith is a big one, prayer, etc. But like besides that, are you someone who's regimented? Like, do you take notes? Do you journal? Do you like, what are things that you do to keep you sort of on track of like what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think one thing I do to keep myself on track all the time is reflection. So I try to, at the end of every day, think through my day. What did I achieve? Where did I fall short? You know, what are some things that I said I could have said better? What are some things that I did I could have done better? So just reflecting, because I believe that reflection is very key and central to growth. And when you reflect, you know what you are doing well, and then you keep on doing that. And then the places where you are falling short, because of course you are human, right? You
Right.
work on them. And so I'm big on reflection, and that helps me.
Interesting. No, yeah, no,
So
that's great.
yeah, journaling, like I have a journal. I have a gratitude journal first off, so that I don't forget the good things that God has done for me and the
Mhm.
good things that people are doing for me, because the human tendency, you tend to forget when things are not going your way, right? So I keep a gratitude journal so that I always look back and remember where God came through for me or where someone came through for me, so that when they fall short, I look back and then say that, okay, it's just one of those things that happens. They're actually good people, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's actually a very good way to think about it because I think a lot of people are very much, what did you do for me lately, right? It's always like you got to keep doing good now, and I think a lot of people fall short, whether it's my parents, my brother, close friends, etc. I think like a lot of people have disappointed me, and it's not necessarily they're being evil or anything like that, but people are just people and make mistakes, and
Yeah. They're going through a lot,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know.
So you sort of have to have grace, and I think that's the right way to go about it. Just having grace, and making sure that you understand that people are people who make mistakes. But on I want to talk about mentors. Do you have any mentors that guide you? Whether it's a church or just school or just outside of all that. Talk about mentors and how you went about also searching for mentors, etc.
I have mentors. I have a spiritual mentor. I have professional mentors. But I would say growing up, my dad has been a great mentor for me. Like just looking at the way he lives his life and the things that he taught me. Again, the 3H: honesty, humility, and hard work, right? It's like just looking, he embodies it. He doesn't just say, be honest, be humble, work hard, right? You see in it in the way he lives his life, right? So my dad has been a big mentor. I've learned a lot from him. My mom also taught me most of the things I know, especially as a woman, right? But coming into the professional space, in undergrad, my third year supervisor was sort of my mentor. I remember there was a time where my grades were struggling a bit, and he just told me that you can do it. So he saw beyond my current potential, right? And he told me, I want you to graduate with this CWA, and I know you can do it. And by the grace of God, I was able to do that, although I struggled a bit in the early stages. And so, yeah, one person, I don't want to forget her.
Mhm.
She's Nigerian. She's called Debbie. She reached out to me in 2019 on LinkedIn. I don't know if I posted something or she just found me by chance, but she reached out to me. She also studied chemical engineering at KNUST. And so she was just telling me more about chemical engineering, the department, and then we started talking. She encouraged me to join international organizations. At the time, I knew nothing about that. So I joined the Society of Women Engineers, which has been very helpful for me even till now. Um, Thanks to her, I joined the American Institute of Chemical Engineers and then um, started the student chapter at KNUST. And so I say she has been very instrumental. When I was looking for a job, she guided me when I was when I started working at Vivo Energy back in Ghana. She came to Ghana to visit just to talk about my work, grad school. She was there throughout the process, wrote most of my recommendation letters as a mentor. So I've had like people who have been very, very instrumental in my growth, and just want to thank them so much for everything because I don't think I'll be where I am now if they didn't like take a keen interest in my life to help me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, wow. That's great. I think one, your parents being instrumental is definitely nice to see. I always love to see like good parent child relationships. I think it's very important to have parents one believe in you, but also instill in you some values. And with the friend, I think, yeah, 100% agree with, putting your friends on, or helping your friends, basically achieve their capabilities, right? And that's somewhat some of the reasons why I made this show too, right? It's just like I feel like a lot of times when we think about networking, we think about networking up, right? Whereas like I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes we need to network across, right? Like your
Right.
friends, someone right next to you might be doing something that you probably want to know about, and help each other grow. There's no I think people sometimes will have competition where it's like, I want to be better than you, but it's like sometimes I just want all of us to be good, right? I want all of us to win. I want all of us to be great. And so I definitely like that. And your story definitely embodies a book. It's a recent book. I forget the author, but she wrote a book about how some it's a black woman who wrote a book about how no one is self-made, and the reason why she said that is because, like, to your point, like, you have parents, you have friends, all these people coming together to pretty much make you who you are today. And I agree, I feel the same way too. I've there've been a lot of people throughout my journey that have given me a nugget here and there, and helped me become who I am today. So I definitely resonate with that story a lot. And we're at the tail end here, but usually I like to end the show with, advice, right? And it doesn't have to be, I know we talk a lot about school, faith, etc. It could just be a random quote that, you live by or whatnot. But the idea is to just give advice to our listeners and viewers, that, about life in general, or, whatever you feel like is good to say, it's up to you. So, what advice do you have for our
Great.
viewers and listeners?
I'd say bloom where you're planted. You may not be where you want to be, but once you are there, there's an opportunity to grow. And so wherever you find yourself, use it as a learning curve for wherever you want to be, right? So maybe you are in school right now, you are just thinking, when do I graduate? When do I graduate? When do I get a job, right? I think that you should slow down and then focus on where you are right now and what you can learn from that season or that stage, and just bloom, just grow, just become more beautiful, become more learned, become more knowledgeable, wherever you are. And also, I'd say that if you're a Christian and you believe that God has called you to do anything, do it. Planning and doing is proof of your faith, right? So if you say, I believe that God said I should do it, it's not about just saying, I believe that God said I should do it. Prepare and plan to do what God has called you to do. Yeah, those are things I live by.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, yeah. I really appreciate your time on the show. Thank you for coming. You've given us a lot of insights and a lot of information, and I hope you come back. I mean, maybe, 5, 10 years down the line, we can catch
Okay.
up again. We'll definitely love to have you back on the show. But thank you very much for coming on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, appreciate you.